In this video, I'm going to teach you how to solve this question. So, this particular question, it says reduce the block diagram to its simplest form. There is solution. There is a block diagram table in the post section of this channel. So that's what I'm going to be using to answer this question, because this question just involves following simple rules from that block diagram to actually get the solution. So I'm just going to be writing down the rules in the table that I used to at each stage. So the first rule I'm going to use is for moving takeoff point beyond G4. Moving takeoff point beyond G4, which is I'm going to be applying rule 10 and rule 1 also. Rule 1 is rule 1 involves combining blocks in cascade, which are that's blocks in series. I also applied rule 1 here and rule 10. So if you move takeoff point beyond G4, you're going to have the block diagram like this. This will now be arrow, your input, and this will be G1, and this will be H2. This was where I applied rule 1. If you check from rule 10, moving this takeoff point beyond G4, you are going to have that this will be H1, the block for H1 and the block for 1 over G4. So adding them, it will just be H2 times 1 over G4. So let me make this in a way that this will actually enter. So from here, this will be G2, then this is the takeoff point, this is the summing point, and then this G3, G4, and then this the output. This is H1. So now the second rule the second rule from that table I'm going to use is combine blocks in cascade. We can see that from here G3 and G4. G3 and G4 are in series, so we can combine them using that rule. Combine blocks in cascade. Rule 1. So now if we do that, we are going to have this. This will be G1 H2 over G4 and this will be G2 and this will be G3 G4 G3 times G4. This is the sign that is attached to it, positive sign. Okay, there is no sign actually attached to it. So when there is no sign attached to the summing point, you assume the sign to be positive. Because I checked from this question, there's no sign. So and we are going to use that sign that's why I assumed it to be positive for the next reduction. So now the next rule we are going to use is the rule 4, which involves combining blocks in parallel. So from here, these two blocks are in parallel, so we can combine them. So that's why I needed this positive sign. I needed a sign, but since I didn't see a sign, whenever you don't see any sign attached to the summing point, then you assume the sign to be positive. So combine blocks in parallel. Rule 4. So this will be that combining the summing point negative G1 and then H2 over G4 and then G2 so now using rule 4, from here this is what you have: G3 G4 divided by 1 minus H1 G3 G3 G4. G4 using the rule 4. That's what you have. Since I'll be displaying the rules as I use them, so the next rule I'll be using is to combine blocks in parallel again. From here, to combine blocks in cascade, sorry. The next rule I'll be using is to combine blocks in cascade. So from here we can see that G2 and this other value are in series. So we can combine them. So combining them, combine blocks in cascade. Rule 1. So combining them, this will be your result. If you follow rule 1, G1, then this should be H2 over G4, H2 over G4. Then after combining this, you have G2, G3, G2, G3, G4 divided by 1 minus H1, G3, and G4. The next thing, C, so completing the diagram, H3, this is what you have. This is the input. The next rule now, from here, the next rule I'm going to apply, since these two blocks are in parallel. From here, these two blocks are in parallel. The next rule I'm going to apply is to combine blocks in parallel. Rule 4. So combining this block, and we can see that from here, previously from here there is no sign here attached to, there's no sign attached to this summing point. Around this point there is no sign. So since there is no sign, you assume the sign to be positive, and then reducing this to that's combining the blocks in parallel, you're going to have this. we already know that there is a negative sign on this other side, so we'll stick to that. So now, after reducing that in parallel, this is your result. 1 minus h1 g3 g4 minus h2 g2 g3. So this will be arrow, your input. So now combine the next step. From here, these two blocks are in series, so we can combine them. So combine blocks in cascade. Rule 1. This is what you have. At the end of it, G1, G2, G3, G4 divided by 1 minus H1 G3 G4 minus H2 G2 G3. H3. So now these two blocks are in parallel. Therefore, they can be reduced also using rule 4. So the combined blocks in parallel apply rule 4. And this will give you the value of the transfer function. H1 G3 G4 minus H2 G2 G3 plus H3 G1 G2 G3 G4. So from here we can find the transfer function. The transfer function is simply transfer function is simply the output over the input, C over R, which is equal to this value here, G1, G2, G3, G1, G2, G3, G4 divided by 1 minus H1 G3 G4 minus H2 G2 G3 plus H3 G1 G2 G3 and G4. So this is the solution to this question. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this.